Hey everyone, on this video, I'd like to explain why I have studied uh, because on a Facebook group there were a comment about one of the followers of the group. He commented on the fact that he was happy that he did a very nice job. I think it was a fun joke. I didn't understand the joke properly, but independently if I understood properly all the explanation that he gave to the joke, I found that the joke was kind of interesting. I will try to leave the joke available somehow because I think the joke is funny when you see the joke. But essentially, the joke here, as the way I understood, was that you had a huge amount of attention on the insulin and a low attention on glucagon. I understood as the way I did my PhD, which is I'm going to explain shortly here how it works. I have my PhD thesis. You are welcome to ask for a copy. I'll be glad to send you. At the moment, it's still private because I'm not sure yet when I'm going to publish it. But I just have, you just need to ask me. I just sent people just ask me. They like to ask sometimes, and I send in a copy of my PhD thesis. But the biggest point that so I'm going to talk from both directions, from the way I understood the joke and from the way he explained the joke. I think both of the way they are just fine. The way he explained is that there's a huge amount of attention insulin in the low attention amount of attention glucagon. See that it has to do with my PhD, so I spent about 3 years study that stuff. I built a kind of what I like to call the web of hormone, which is I just posted in the video a short part of my PhD defense in which I talked about this kind of web of hormone. But I do have a paper talking about that, and I do have my and we do have my PhD thesis, in which I give a huge amount of explanation about this hormone. So when you come to attention, here I'm talking about attention. I'm not talking about physiology. I'm talking about when you have a set of research and the people decide to give too much attention to one specific research, such as in the COVID, there were a huge amount of paper published in COVID because COVID was the topic of the moment. So this kind of observation can either create sometimes problem on the academic world because sometimes some topics they have too much attention, too much financing, too much uh, too much because research is all about money. So if you have centers, if you have people work on that, most likely that it's going to be a very important topic. Most likely the topic is going to advance. But if we have a topic that does not receive attention too much, the topic will remain such as a little bit shadowed, a little bit forgotten. In my specific case, my PhD, because I don't know if you have a PhD. If you have, you may know that. If you don't have, I'm going to explain briefly how one of the biggest reasons why someone choose a topic for a PhD. When you do a PhD, it will change for the. I guess it's going to change from university to university. I don't think that's all of them are not the same. I think they're different. You must choose a topic that somehow you are the one. Somehow you need to become the guy on that specific topic. It may be a kind of continuation of research. Maybe you are working with your supervisor and he has some kind of a topic that he worked and he wants you to go on a little bit more. That was more or less what happened to me. Not specifically because I like to go, I always like to go a little bit. I like to be different. I mean, I even try to put that on my research, my landmark. Like I like always to do stuff that's completely somehow new. My supervisors they wanted me to go on with some kind of insulin model at the time. But I thought to myself, there's a huge amount. It's more or less the same the way of the joke. I thought to myself, there is a huge amount of models of insulin. The group I was doing my PhD, they already had been working with insulin for about 30 years, like 30 years of research on insulin. Not saying the topic is not important. I'm saying the topic is too much already, like because I don't like any area that you already have a kind of gods, people that are so good on that you cannot even talk to them, or cannot even defy them, because they are so like. Think about Microsoft. Suppose that you want to launch an operational system. Can you launch an operational system easily? I don't think so. You may launch, but not sure that you're going to compete. You're going to compete with Microsoft. If you want to launch a search engine, I believe you're going to face Google. I like to use a database called MongoDB. MongoDB, one of the reasons why I like MongoDB, and I even for a couple of times I was invested in MongoDB on the stock market, is because MongoDB does not compete with Google. I think nowadays, at the moment, to compete with Google is a bad idea. It's the same. I thought the same way, because I thought there's a huge amount of people, my supervisors, all of them somehow they already worked with insulin, and they had a huge amount of work with insulin. But then I thought, what can I do to maybe spark some light on kind of research? And at the same time, I was in a group, so I could not do whatever I wanted. I don't know if you have been in a group or working in your PhD, but it doesn't matter how you want to think outside of the box, you cannot go too much. I mean, I had this difficulty on my group. I'm not saying that my group was bad. I'm saying that when you are in a group, you have some time to let it go. So I thought to myself, how can I let it go? Because I want to do something new. I wanted to go. I wanted to be the one on a specific area. At the same time, I wanted to work with my group. So I accept a kind of a challenge that my supervisor kind of said. He wanted to not to he wanted to expand his model of insulin. The problem of the model of insulin is that the model of insulin is just one hormone. And on the joke, you are going to see a huge amount of microphone on insulin. But the joke can be understood as well the way I understood, on a kind of second, on a kind of a new direction, because he told the joke in the sense of attention, which was the reason why I did my PhD or specifically on ghrelin, because ghrelin didn't have attention at the time. At the time, there were no model on ghrelin. Later, when I tried to publish a paper, I got a paper rejected because I came to know that somebody else published a paper, but a French researcher called Jacquier. The problem that at the time, first of all, her work was published after I started working with Ghrelin. I'm not even sure if you saw my work, because I have the habit to I still have this habit to publish on post, to make blogs. Maybe she heard somehow I was working on that, because there was a huge coincidence that her model was similar to mine. Maybe I do like open research, as I'm doing here on this channel, but I do understand that open research has its risk. Deep learning suffered from the same consequence. Maybe I will leave for you a part of a talk that I saw about deep learning. And one of the reasons deep learning was built as an open science. People were like talking about deep learning. People were developing deep learning, but they knew that somebody else could take the idea of deep learning. If you had an idea of deep learning, open idea, people could take that to the university and get a lot of money. That's a risk that you have to take. I took the risk of my PhD, so I maybe this research from I have no proof of that, but maybe this research from French somehow she saw my blog. But anyway, the model was similar. But the model was a primitive model, was more or less the same version, one of the first version of my model. Because her paper was not about ghrelin, her paper was about body weight. But the reason why she had to use a primitive model, independent if she used my model before it was published, because she saw on my blog, she didn't want to cite the blog. Independent of the reason, the version was primitive. My model that I tried to publish was even higher than the model she used it, because because there was no model on ghrelin, so she had to improvise. That's the reason why she had to improvise, because there were no model on ghrelin. So essentially, I wanted to call more attention to ghrelin. So the joke that this person did on the group, it has to do as well with the fact that I wanted to call attention to ghrelin. I saw that ghrelin was a very important hormone. I saw there was no mathematical model to ghrelin. I saw that if you go to Google, YouTube, you type ghrelin mathematical model, most of the work will be mine, because I did a considerable amount of divulgation, blogs, videos, and so on. So I guess you will find a huge amount of work belong to me. I do like open science. During my PhD, I also did a lot of open science. I know the risk. Somebody else can get your idea, do not cite because they just want to cite classical scientific paper. They not want to cite blog. I cite blogs. I cite Wikipedia because I think it's important to give the credit independently or where you published. If your idea is yours, you should cite. Doesn't matter. It's a blog, but I don't think that everyone thinks this way. But the point is that so the joke can be understood on two ways. One way is that insulin is receiving too much medium attention, too much attention from the media in general, which is totally true. The second way to understand the joke is the way that how I understood the joke because I did the PhD, so I do have a kind of a mindset around that. But the second way is right as well because the second way I understood the joke, which I'm going to leave for the link to the description of the video of the discussion on the short comment. It was not a discussion, but you did some kind of talk back on our YouTube channel. So the second way is that insulin has a huge amount of hormone talking to insulin, which is true. Insulin is one of the most important hormone of body weight. I think that's not by any chance that insulin is the most studied hormone. The first model of insulin, which I used on a kind of a model that I built on a paper, I published a paper. The model was from 1985, which is about more than 38 years ago. The model was one of the first model of insulin. I always like to joke because insulin has a kind of almost 40 years old of models. On the other hand, the leptin, which is the model I used, but it was already built by somebody else, and ghrelin, which was the model that I built myself, they are still young. They are babies. I don't know. I have to be honest. I lost contact with the literature, so I do not know how it's going on right now. But